There you go, branded.
It's fretting time. So the first thing we have to address is this thing flat? Is it true? It has to be true, and it is. If your fretboard's not perfect, you're never going to get a good fret job. And you're going to work like a dog to correct all these problems, but you just have to get it straight, true to start with. Everything else is done. Once you get in there, you got to protect your fretboard, because once you get in there and start fretting, you're never going to get in there again between those frets to actually address any issues. So keep that in mind. The first thing I usually do is I'll take a file and open up these fret slots ever so slightly at the opening. It helps to get the frets in there, and also it eases that edge a little bit so that when the frets have to be replaced, it's not as likely to chink out, and makes it a little easier on the next guy. But mainly I do it for ease of putting them in. And make sure you don't run the file over the fretboard. It's been known to happen. Okay, now, next thing I do is take a little bit off these sharp edges here. They're really almost scissor-like after all the processing to get at this part. So I'd like to smooth that out a little bit. This is just a piece of 220. I have my frets all cut. They're all pre-radiused, right? This is 12-inch radius. The frets have a radius that's, darn close to that. And they're cut to fit in, as I go down the neck. I tend to start up on the nut and move this way. A lot of people do it the opposite way. I don't know. I'm just used to doing it this way. And I also, before I get going, I use this portable press, the claw, because I've always had it, and I've been using it for 40 years. And what's nice about it is it's adaptable to all sorts of necks. I have nothing against the overhead press, but this is just adaptable for all sorts of necks that I work on, a lot of beaters and old things, and it works perfectly for that. And once you get used to using this thing, it's really fast, it's not hard to deal with, and I just like it a lot better. And then when you're done, it goes in a drawer, right? It's not another piece of machinery laying around. Then you got your nippers to cut the front ends. You gotta have a hammer. There's no way you can do this without a good hammer. This is a dead blow hammer from that company that charges a lot of money for luthier tools, which I will not mention the name of, but they're the only ones that have it. And what's nice about it is when it hits, it just stops instead of bouncing. I used to use a rawhide hammer, and it would just kind of bounce, and I could never really get it to seat the frets. And you really need one of these to seat the frets. You can't just do this with a press alone. I know a lot of people think that's the way they do it. Just jam, 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 go down. That's not how no. You have to use a hammer, and you'll see why. So when I do this, I First of all, this is a raw fretboard. There's no finish on here, so that allows me to just kind of be, you know, not the easiest with the glue. I don't have to worry about the glue because I can clean it up while I go. I use a thicker CA glue, not the actual thick stuff, but it's just not the really thin, watery stuff. You can use the gel if you want to. This is like a step down from that. It's the normal stuff you get anywhere. And what I do is work at 4 frets at a time, and I'll put a dab on the outer edge of each fret. Not all the way out, but just a little bit in, because when you press a fret in, it's going to squeeze out, and you don't want a whole bunch squeezing out of there. So put it just, you know, like 1/4 inch in from the outer edge. Just a dab. Do one side. Wipe it. Remember, there's no finish on here, so I can do this. Sandpaper. Get that off of there. It's not going to set that fast. This stuff just doesn't set that fast. I got to get that extra off of there, or otherwise it's going to show up when I put a finish on there. So you got to be sure to clean that out. There's certain woods, it's easier than others. Maple's pretty easy to deal with in this situation, but other woods, it'll suck that glue in there, and it'll be a little bit more difficult to get it out, but you have to. And don't dawdle when you do this. Like I'm talking, don't dawdle. Just get to it, get it over with. Glue won't set up immediately, but you don't have all day either. Remember, this is the last time you're going to get in there to sand between those frets, so make sure it's good. Okay, starting with 1. Get it up there. Center it. Tap it a little bit. Just enough to bite. You'll feel it kind of bite in there. Four at a time is what I do. Some people just do 3. I like to do 4. Speeds it up a little bit. Just what I'm used to. With the claw, you adjust it where you want it, and you'll feel it when you fresh cut these things. You'll feel it just kind of pop in there, and that's the greatest feeling in the world. Drops in there perfectly. Trim it. These little nubs are all over the shop. They get stuck in your shoe. I find them all over the house. Cats bring them up. I found them in the yard because they get stuck on your shoe. Okay, now you have to set these things in there. I use the brass end. Just don't smash them. You know, you just want to set them in there. Then with your little piece of straight edge, check it. And if there's a high spot, it'll rock on it. Like I feel a little high spot right there. Looks good. That's why you can't use just the press alone. It isn't going to set it perfectly. You can also look, it's always good to check because you can actually see it if one's out sometimes. I mean, if it's a micro out, you can't, but if it's obvious, you can see it if you look down the barrel. All right, so
Good.
Perfect. So that's perfect. You notice that I do, make sure everything's nice and level as I go. I don't have to level this at all now. It's done, right? No more crowning, no more anything. That's as flat as I'm going to get it. But I do have to finish out trimming the edges, and that means I got to go over to another machine.